Peace, peace, everyone. We back. This is the third installment of what I call the Jesuit order as a synagogue of Jews, right? This is bringing together the Jesuit order, the Roman Catholic secret society known as the Society of Jesus, and the crypto Jew coming together, bringing them together. Because a lot of your Catholicism, your priests, your bishops, your clergymen, they have Jewish blood in them. The Pope has Jewish blood in them. You understand? This is because those crypto Jews who converted over, who were known as your new Christian converts, or were known as your conversos, these were your Sephardim Jews, these were your black Moors. All right? I want to emphasize that. I'm going to keep on emphasizing that. Before Judaism was white, it started out as being controlled and dominated by dark-skinned melanated people. And certain crypto Jews, like your Sephardim Jews, your Anusim Jews, and your Marahi Jews, they were black. They came from North Africa. They came from West Africa. West Africa was known as the Maghribi, where the Moors came from. You understand? And you had the Moors who had Morocco, Mauritania, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria. These were the different places that your black Jews came from and your black Muslims came from, who later on converted over into Catholicism, Christianity. But they were secret crypto Jews, meaning that in public, they took on the Roman Catholic belief, but in secret, they still practiced Judaism. And they moved up into Catholicism, into powerful positions. You understand? So a lot of your bishops, your dioceses, your clergymen have Jewish ancestral. This is the reason why. And then later on, they were amalgamated with your Caucasians. You understand? Your Indo-Germans or your Indo-Europeans or your Indo-Aryans that took over the Roman Empire. They were the ones that caused the fall of the Roman Empire and filled that vacuum. You understand? And then later on, it became the Roman Empire to the Roman Church. You understand? This belief system is based on solar worshiping or sun worshiping. You understand? This is the reason why the Pope goes through his certain rituals and he dressed the way he dressed, because it's all based on sun worship. You understand? So before I left, I started off reading from the article from let me give you the name of the article. The name of the article is called Project Muse, right? Project Muse is the name of the article I'm reading from. And you can go there by putting in muse.jhu.edu, right? And it's called the Catholic Historical Review, the Jesuit order as a synagogue of Jews, the Jesuits of Jewish ancestral and purity of blood law in the early society of Jesus. And we was reading through this article. I want to pick up right here where it says the opposition that this influx of new Christians. So remember, when I talk about new Christians, I'm talking about your conversos, and your conversos were known as your crypto Jews who converted over into Catholicism. You understand? This is during the Spanish Inquisition, 1492, when Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand was kicking out the Muslims and the Jews out of the Iberian Peninsula. And a lot of your Jews and Muslims were going to different places trying to escape the Inquisition. But a lot of them did stay and convert over into Catholicism, and they were known as your conversos. And your conversos were known as your crypto Jews. They were your crypto Jews secretly, meaning in public, they took on the Roman Catholic belief, but in secret they still practice the Judaism belief system. So that's why a lot of your bishops, clergymen, dioceses, popes have Jewish blood. You understand? Because of the influx of your crypto Jews converting over into Catholicism during the 1942 Inquisition, where they were burning and hanging Jews and Muslims. So it says the opposition that this influx of new Christians inspired both within and outside of the society, however, is sometimes of which only a few specialists have been aware until recently. James W. Reitz and Francis de Bogia Modena have written important studies of Agnamus Loyola, the Phileo-Semitism, and of the division within the society that developed after Agnamus' death. Marx, however, does sometimes that no one has attempted until now. He investigated the genealogy root of dozens of 16th century Spanish and Portuguese Jesuits, right? Amongst them were several of the most notable Jesuit intellectuals of the period. Marx linked his genealogical studies to a sophisticated analysis of various factions that developed within the society as a result of the debate about the admission of new Christians. In addition, Marx analyzes the strong opposition in court and clerical circles in Spain and Portugal as a whole to the admission of new Christians in the society. The Jesuit order as a synagogue of Jews provided a profound and convincing analysis based on extensive archival work of the conflict between theory and practice in the Jesuit or the Society of Jesus. The society found documents call for an inclusive approach to the admission process. In practice, however, discrimination in the admission of a wide range of minority, including not only new Christians, but also Asians, Africans, American Indians, and mestizos, was widespread. So remember, when I talk about new Christians, we're talking about conversos, and those conversos were your crypto Jews that converted over into Catholicism during the 1992 Inquisition, where the Spaniards, your royal Christian people that were in power, were chasing your Muslims and your Jews out of the Iberian Peninsula, places like Spain and Portugal. And like I said, some of them converted over to the Christian belief system, but they still kept their Judaism belief system in secret. So these crypto Jews were in secret worshiping Judaism, but in public they were following the Roman Catholic belief system. And this is how your Judaism and Jesuit belief system became as one. This is how the Jesuits became a synagogue of Jews. You understand? It says the debate about new Christian hinge on the interpretation by individual Jesuits. Agnamus' intention draws on their direct contact with Agnamus, on their understanding of the institute of the society, or on both Jesuits, on both sides of the debate about new Christians asserts that they sought to adopt the policy that Agnamus would have adopted had he been alive in the 1570s, when the debate threatened to produce a schism in the society. So we have to understand, Agnamus Loyola, who started the Society of Jesus or the Jesuit order, he allowed these crypto Jews to come into the Society of Jesus and take on the Roman Catholic belief system. You understand? So this was done by Agnatus Loyola, letting the conversos, the new converts, convert over into the Society of Jesus, the secret society. You understand? Matter of fact, one of the superior generals of the Society of Jesus was a crypto Jew. So let's keep on going. So we're back at the AI overview talking about Jews and Jesuits, right? And we just finished reading from Project Muse, talking about Jews and Jesuits and how those new Christians who were your crypto Jews converted over into the Jesuit order. And we know Agnatus Loyola, he allowed these Jews, these crypto Jews who were known as your Sephardim Jews, who were your black Sephardim Jews, to convert over into the secret society, or what we call the Jesuit order, or the Society of Jesus. So let's keep on going. It says, however, after facing intense prosecution during the Holocaust, particularly in Nazi Germany, the relationship transformed, leading to a more positive dialogue between the Catholic Church and Judaism, which accumulated in the Vatican Second Declaration of the Nostra Aetate. So we're going to talk about the Nostra Aetate. But you also hear that the Jewish Holocaust that happened during Nazi Germany with Adolf Hitler, those Jews, they became, after the Holocaust, the Nazi Germany, they developed a more positive dialogue between the Roman Catholic Church and Judaism. And this was the Vatican Second Declaration, which they called the Nostra Aetate. And the Nostra Aetate is where the Jews and the Roman Catholics built a better relationship. So you had the Holocaust, and then after the Holocaust, the Jews and the Catholics, they created a better dialogue, a better interface with each other. And this was during the Vatican Second Declaration, which was known as the Nostra Aetate. All right? So we're all familiar with the Holocaust, right? So we're going to talk about the Holocaust just a little bit. The Holocaust, right, was a genocide of European Jews, right? European Jews. But remember, those European Jews started off as black melanated people that came from Morocco, that came from North Africa, which was known as the Maghrebi. Remember, you had your Mizrahi Jews, your Anusim Jews, and your Sephardic Jews. These were your black Jews that came from Africa. They came from Morocco. They came from the Maghrebi, which is North Africa. They came from West Africa. You understand? And then later on, when those Indo-Aryans invaded the Roman Catholic Church, or I should say the Roman Catholic Empire, causing it to fall, and they filled the vacuum when the Roman Catholic Church fell, they became Caucasian. So this is how your Jews went from being black to Caucasian. It was your Indo-Aryans or your Indo-Germans who took down the Roman Catholic Empire and filled that vacuum and sat on the seat of the Roman Empire after they got rid of your black monarchical Jews. Or I should say your black monarchical Christians, because Christianity was all black too. So you had Christianity, Islam, and Judaism started out as melanated control religions, and then later on they were amalgamated by your Indo-Aryans who took over the Roman Catholic Church. So when we talk about the Holocaust was a genocide of your European Jews. Remember, your European Jews started out as your crypto Jews who were dark-skinned and melanated. It says during World War II, From 1941 to 1945, Nazi Germany and its collaborators systematically murdered some 6 million Jews across Germany, occupying Europe. Around 2/3 of Europe's Jewish population. The murders were committed primarily through mass shootings across Eastern Europe and poison gas chambers and extermination camps, chiefly Auschwitz, right? Separate Nazi prosecution killed many of other non-Jewish civilians and prisoners of war, POWs. The term Holocaust is sometimes used to include the murder and prosecution of non-Jewish groups. So even your non-Jewish groups, your blacks, your gays, your Jews, got murdered too during the Holocaust. But when we talk about the Auschwitz extermination camps of your European Jews who started out as your black Jews, your melanated Jews, and then later on was amalgamated with your Indo-Aryans or your Indo-Germans or your Indo-Europeans who spread it to East Europe, and some of them went to India, Southeast India, coming from out of Central Asia. They were chased out of Central Asia by Attila the Hun, your Huns, because they were fighting and warring amongst each other. And so these Indo-Aryans or these Indo-Germans or these Indo-Europeans, they went to East Europe. You understand? And some of them went to India. This is the reason why they were called Indo-Europeans. You have your Europeans who were your black Europeans that came from the black nobility family in Europe. And then you had your Indo-Europeans who were your Central Asian Indo-Aryans who were chased out of Central Asia by the Huns or Attila the Hun, right? And they spread it to East Europe and they spread it into different places into India. This is the reason why they're called Indo-Europeans or Indo-Germans. You understand? But during the German Nazi era period, where Adolf Hitler did the Holocaust and were slaughtering these European Jews, what they're not telling you, that these original Jews were black. And these European Jews had black blood in them. You know, understand? Some of them were black, some of them were mulatto. You understand? So when you talk about your European Jews, a lot of them come from out of your melanated Jews, your Moors, who ran Europe for 800 years, who were known as your Sephardic Jews, your Nusum Jews, and your Mizrahi Jews. They came from Africa, Morocco, Mauritania, Tunis, Algeria, Libya. You understand? So this is what they're not telling y'all. That those Jews that were being killed and gassed in those detention camps, a lot of them had black blood in them. And we come to learn later on Adolf Hitler was a Jew and he had black blood. So this is what they're not telling you, the black essence of these Jews. You understand? They just want to portray in history like they were white people, like they were European white people, but these European white people had black blood. They come from the black seed, the black bloodline. That was the black nobility in Europe that ruled for 800 years. You understand? Oh, should I read this? I want to read that. So when we talk about the Jews in the Auschwitz detention camps that were being killed and gassed, this is what we're talking about. And they were the ones that were put into ghettos. This is where you get your concept of ghettos from. It started there during World War II, during the Nazi Germany regime, that those Jews that they were slaughtering and killing that had black blood in them, they created ghettos for them. These ghetto camps. You understand? And they were killing them and they were gassing them. So let's go back. So we know what the Holocaust is, right? So now we want to talk about the Vatican Second Declaration, which was known as the Nostra Aetate. And like I said, the Nostra Aetate was when the Jews and the Roman Catholic Church, the Pope, the Jesuits, they became one, and they created a positive interface and dialogue with each other. And this was after the Holocaust. You understand? So let's see what the Nostra Aetate is. So I'm going to start reading the Nostra Aetate, right? This article. I hope y'all come back, because when I come back in the 4th installment of the Jesuit order as a synagogue of Jews, we're going to read this article. So I hope y'all follow me, and welcome, like I said, welcome to Rational Lens Podcast. I'm your host, Rock Barzini, a.k.a. Min Kefrare, and we're talking about the Jesuit order as a synagogue of Jews. And we're talking about crypto Jews. So come back and follow me. Peace.